Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and today we're speaking with a few-time successful crowdfunder who has done a bunch of different campaigns for other companies. So they're actually managing these campaigns, and they're coming on the show to share with you some of the stuff they've been learning since doing this. The last project for Lumen has raised more than $2.3 million on Indiegogo, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about that, as well as some of the other projects that she worked on and that she managed for other companies. But this is really going to be an episode for you if you're interested in running a technology gadget or gizmo campaign. You're trying to raise money using crowdfunding as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, right? Or you're trying to get your invention out there to the masses, or you're a marketer and you want to know just kind of like the secret sauce, if you will, to get people interested in your project. She shares a few different things. One of them is a very effective way to get just a flood of backers and traffic on day one of your project. So I think that's going to be really valuable for you. And also, if you haven't, take a second to go and check out some of the other episodes I got out there on this podcast in iTunes. It's tons of valuable interviews. And these aren't just like, us chatting about the weather and such kind of interviews. This is really, crowdfunding goldmine. Like, this is tons of valuable tips and techniques and exercises and tools and things that you can use to supercharge your campaign. And that's been my goal since starting this starting this podcast is I wanted there to be a place where you could go and you could learn directly from people that are killing it right now, that are in the trenches, kicking ass, taking names, and they're working hard to get their dreams realized. I really wanted to create that resource for you, and that's why I started this podcast and this show. But I also do it in other places. I have my YouTube channel, I have the blog, I also have a great book out there, the Kickstarter Launch Formula, which if you like me talking on a podcast, you enjoy the cadence and the passion that I have in my voice, and you really hate people that are just droning on when they're trying to teach a subject, you might like the audio version of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. That's available on Audible. All you got to do is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. You can pick up an Audible version of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. And also, I believe if you've never done Audible before, you never downloaded an audiobook, you can start a free 30-day trial. And I think you also get a free copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is like a double punch knockout. That's pretty awesome. So without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. And at the end of the show, I'm going to share a way that you can work with me if you're interested. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Sal. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Do you think we can get started? Maybe just can paint a bit of a picture of kind of how these other projects you've raised money for, and then you were hired by Lumen. Can you just kind of like add some clarity to that story?
Sure, totally. So I am a marketing director at this point. My background is in startups, so I'm located in Tel Aviv, Israel. And, I would say that I specialize in working in B2C hardware companies. So I worked at a company called LifeBeam and worked with them on a campaign called V, which raised $1.7 million. And then I went to another company called Upright. I worked internally there. Was their project manager, helped them raise $1.1 million. And then when I left, I was recommended by the founder of that company to go to Lumen as they prepared to launch their product for the first time. And as you said, I helped Lumen raise 1.7 during the campaign and then continued on in demand to reach over 2.4 million, actually.
That is insane. Congratulations on all of your success there. For Tel Aviv, it seems like that's a very intensive innovation technology capital. Is that like very ripe for crowdfunding? Is that talked about a lot there in Tel Aviv?
Yeah, so much. I mean, Israel in general has so much innovation. It's amazing. Even some of the there's companies here that specialize in just helping startups actually manage their campaigns as well. There's so much innovation and digital marketing that comes out of here. It's great. So it's a really cool hub to be in, that's for sure.
So I want to talk a little bit about Lumen, but before we do, what's your favorite part of working on these campaigns? Because it's pretty clear just listening to you speak that you are passionate about it. You really give off this aura, just I think, of being interested in the space and loving it? And what's to you is like the most favorite part of running these campaigns?
I think it would actually have to be the project management. And I think that comes from my personal side of being an Ironman triathlete as well. And one of the things that goes into Ironman is preparation and making sure that everything is ready for race day. And so I treat the campaigns as if they're a competition. And, you have a goal. And so you need to succeed and to be the best that you can be. And in order to get there, it's a marathon. It takes months of preparation and effort and organization to be ready on the launch day and post-launch and, everything that goes into it. So I really look at the two in parallel. And I think that everything I learned from Ironman and that organizational side of things, I brought with me to the campaign side. So that's one of the things that I love most.
Yeah. I mean, it's a science of 1,000 details.
Absolutely.
I personally am like on the other side of the equation where I love marketing, but the project management, like nitty gritty, is not so much my forte. So it's really interesting. I'd love to get some of your insights on that. But before we get into that, for Lumen, your most recent campaign, can you just tell listeners a little bit about what they would use that product for and sort of what it does?
Absolutely. So Lumen is actually a device and app. It's a handheld device that measures your metabolism through the breath. So we're measuring the concentration of carbon dioxide in your breath to tell you if your body is using fats or carbs for fuel. And then we're providing you with a personalized daily nutrition plan to help you reach your goal, whether it be for sports performance, weight loss, or learning about how your metabolism works to just eat more, I would say, accurately for your metabolism and to help people achieve what's called metabolic flexibility to have a healthier metabolism. So that's what it's really cool.
The hardest part of losing weight or being fit is like it's almost a guessing game, right? It sounds like this kind of brings it more into like a scientific backed strategy and approach to that.
Yeah, so we take the guesswork out of what you should eat. We just had a user write to us the other day that he has been using Lumen for 5 weeks. He did not change what he was eating, but he changed when he ate it and how he ate it in terms of portions. And he lost 2.2% body fat just from using our device to figure out when to time the food.
I'm going to need that after the Corona 15, where you're putting on like 15 pounds from being inside all day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So as it relates to the project here, I mean, you had a smash success. What was it like the day before you were launching? And you've done all of this preparation. I'm sure you feel a lot of anxiety and you're about to go live. Like, what did that feel like for you when, I don't know how long it took even, maybe you were working on this for a couple of months. What did that feel like?
So I started working on the project the day that they brought me in. So on March 20th, and we launched July 17th. And I remember the night of July 16th, just basically going over my Excel sheet and checklist probably 20 times and making sure that everything was correct, perfect, and QAing everything that we had and going over the troops and gathering the team together just to say, we were ready. So it felt good, just, double checking and seeing that all of our ducks were in a row.
When you talk about those ducks, what were the things that you had together here to make sure, or to give, I guess, the best shot at the launch and to have a strong foundation? What were some of those things that you had assembled at that point in time?
That I was looking at, it's a million puzzle pieces. On the day before, you would say? Like, what was I looking at on that day before?
Yeah, and even in the last couple of months before you were going live, like, had you built up a social media following? Had you reached out to bloggers or anything? Had you built up an email list? What were some of the things you had in your arsenal?
Yeah, I would say the things that we really worked on to make sure that we were ready for the day of launch was the email list. That's one of the most important things, and I think overlooked is making sure that we had a really strong email list that was ready to be emailed on the day of, because that email list, having a strong base, is what gets you the first 24, 48 hours of funds, I would say, to help make sure that you cross the goal in the first 48 hours, and then gives you all of the traffic that you'll need for remarketing past that. Additionally, making sure that everything was lined up in terms of all the sites that you can go on outside of digital marketing. So a lot of times we talk about Facebook advertising and all of this, but there's so many amazing sites that you can go on to get more traffic, like Backer Hub and Backer City, so many of these places, and they don't cost so much. They'll cost anything from $125 to about $1,000, and it's such a worthwhile investment. I just forgot the name of the other one, the referral one that you can put on your site as well. Mm-hmm. And really making sure that all of this was lined up, as well as any paid videos that we could do, like Viral Thread and Unilad. You can reach out to these places and do a paid video to get your campaign out there even more. And we're reaching out to influencers and making sure that the PR agency was ready with the PR, and making sure that everybody, one of the most important things is making sure that every single person on your team is ready on the day of the launch to email all of their friends and share with their social. You'd be surprised. Everyone knows somebody. So using your personal network internally to get the word out.
The other thing I think for your product in particular is the proof element and the credibility element, that it kind of does what it says, right? It seems like you went through a beta testing phase in order to kind of iron out any of the kinks and to probably get testimonials, I imagine. Like, what did that beta testing phase look like?
I think, that's such a good point. And thanks so much for bringing that up. On crowdfunding today, so many times you hear, oh, this could be a fraud or it could be a fake or it's not going to come through. And so something that was really special about this campaign was that they spent 4 years in science and research of the product, and then over a year making sure that the product had been used by beta users to actually show that the product works, that it's valid, that people are using it and loving it. So that was something that we put a lot of effort into as well, to gather real user testimonial before we went to the campaign and published it to the world. So that was something to really be proud of as well.
Yeah, those testimonials are just like totally sprinkled throughout the campaign, and it just kind of builds a little bit more trust and credibility and belief that this thing does what it says, right? And it makes me just feel a little bit more comfortable supporting something versus if you just said, there's this amazing device that will instantly make you lose weight, I'd be like, yeah, right, I wouldn't believe it.
Right. Well, nothing's going to make you instantly lose weight. That's one of the questions I love. People go, does it work? And I said, it works if you use it, if you're going to follow the plan. But I have the science and proof to show you why it will work as well. I have these validation studies and I have users who used it. So it's the proof of concept. So we were very confident going into it with the product that we had.
Definitely. Being aware of the promises you're making. And even if you have a viral success on your hands and you end up raising a lot of money, how that will impact the delivery of the product, right? Because that's really where a lot of trust is created, is can you actually make good on your promises? Can you talk a little bit about the post-campaign phase there, after you've raised so much money, really taking care to those backers and such?
Yeah. So one thing also, we talked about getting our ducks in a row. One thing that we did a lot of research on to make sure that we didn't lose the money that we earned was researching the countries that we were shipping to and what would the shipping rates be. So something to be aware of is that when you launch a campaign, you will need to select what countries do you want to ship to and how much is it going to cost. And you potentially could lose a lot of money if you calculate these rates incorrectly, because once the campaign ends, you don't have an opportunity. It doesn't make sense to charge again. You won't be able to ask the backers through the campaign, oh, I'm sorry, we miscalculated the shipping rate. We charged you $20, but it's actually $40, for example. And so to make sure that that rate is correct. And talking about that as well, how are you going to fulfill this product? From where are you going to fulfill this product? What are the customs going to be? And not only that, a lot of people think, okay, I have the device itself, but I don't have the packaging finalized yet. So you need to look at how much is it going to cost for the packaging? How much is it going to cost to ship it to these places? All of that post-campaign information is so important to research as a startup, because it can eat up your funds. And I think a lot of startups will look at the campaign and say, all right, I need to raise $50,000. And then they forget, everything that comes after, even managing the customers, your backers, just making sure that you're still able to help answer all of their questions, put out the campaign updates, give them the information that they need. It's so important.
Yeah, I mean that's really where the goodwill is developed, right? The brand only happens when people start to interact with your core product and give you feedback and talk about it online. So you're kind of brand building almost in that phase.
Absolutely. And I think also a lot of times we as campaigns, we want to overpromise and give the shipping date, for example. All three companies that I've been in, we gave the best estimated shipping date that we could. And then it turned out that, for whatever reason or another, the date needed to be pushed back. But if you are transparent and open and honest as early as you can be, the backers will understand, because this is a crowdfunding platform. But making sure that you communicate with them openly, transparently, and regularly is going to be key. But being aware of that ahead of time.
Having done a few of these, I'm sure you've learned a ton of lessons. What's one mistake that you could share with us, maybe with a previous project that you've made? It could be minor. It could be just not calculating something or not being aware of something. What's a mistake that you've made that you've corrected, over time?
The shipping rates. Yes, that's the one that comes to mind most quickly. I won't say from where or when, but that is something that, if overlooked, can eat away at a lot of costs. But yeah, it's so important to think about your post-campaign and how you're going to manage that with the operations and the logistics, and to bring somebody or talk to somebody who has been through it, especially if you're a hardware company or producing anything.
I've worked with some other companies that are, established, and they're looking to get to Indiegogo to kind of do like a product launch almost. And there's a lot of uncertainty around the pricing, right? And the actual backer, like the customer, the archetype of who that person is, the early adopter. What was your attitude towards that? Like, is this a deal that's going to be better? This is better than what they could traditionally get on retail? Is it kind of like aimed at an early adopter audience, or you didn't find there was any difference between marketing to like a general crowd versus crowdfunders?
No, there's most certainly a difference in the way that you are marketing and advertising this product, especially if you're going to crowdfunding, because it is going to be somebody who, I don't want to say is more risk-oriented, but is more willing to take a chance and try something new, who understands that they are going to be the first in the door. So there is, these people are looking for more of good faith messaging that, okay, this company did their research, they did their homework. I trust that they did their best, but I'm willing to overlook maybe some mistakes that there might be, if they're willing to communicate it, versus the general public who is expecting a fully cooked product, if that makes sense.
How do you think that you personally have grown in your career since this first project that you launched to the one now? Is it more awareness, I guess, of international customers? Is it you've been almost surprised at what you've been able to do and pull off? Like, how have you feel like you've grown in your career?
I think personally, I have grown. Wow, such a great question. I really love that question. I've grown as a project manager and being more attentive being more aware to attention to detail, looking at all the angles and understanding that crowdfunding is so many moving parts and phases, and understanding and being patient with it, but being able to, I think that I've grown in the sense of seeing all of the puzzle pieces that need to go into it to have a successful crowdfunding campaign, and being able to identify my personal weaknesses and being able to ask for assistance. I think that was something where I was able to grow.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right? There's that saying. When it comes to the actual management, like this is kind of my weak spot, I would say, where I struggle a lot with organization and like attention to detail. I'm really good on like sales and marketing and driving traffic and converting that. But when it's the actual like management of the campaign, the details there, do you use any tools to help you do this when there are so many, as you said, pieces of the puzzle or moving parts? Do you use any tools?
I use Excel. Funny enough, I use Excel and I use Google Keep with reminders. I love reminders, and I love Gmail Boomerang. That became my best friend.
Oh, I love Boomerang. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a huge Boomerang fan. But Excel and Google Keep with reminders. I know not everyone's a Google Keep fan, but sometimes simple is best. So I had my daily to-do list, and then I had my big to-do list, and that's how I worked in making sure that everyone was doing what they needed to do and that I was, following along. So
with Excel, do you do anything like creating projections? Like, this is what's going to happen if we hit our goal. This is what's going to happen in the best case scenario. Like, do you do anything like that?
I work with the founders on that, but yes, absolutely. And the agencies. So I've always worked with an agency outside of the company who actually ran the paid ad side of things. So everyone had a part. So it was my job to make sure that we brought in the best agencies to help us achieve our goals.
When it comes to that, do you have any recommendations for those that are listening of agencies in Tel Aviv or those that you've worked with?
I have 2 agencies, and I always tell people this. Each agency has their pros and cons and their experiences, and every agency has their skill set. So actually, I have 3 agencies I'd recommend. And I always say talk to all of them, see what they have to offer, see if you have a good rapport with them as well, because it's not a marriage, but you are going to spend a lot of time with your agency and a lot of back and forth. So it's really important to see that you have a good rapport with the agency that you select. If you're going to go with Indiegogo or Kickstarter, I would recommend speaking with TROSS, TROSS, who are located in Tel Aviv, and talking with Rain Factory, who are located in San Francisco. And then if you're 100% only going to Kickstarter, I would recommend also speaking with Jellop, JELLOP.
Isn't Gel also based in Tel Aviv?
They're also Tel Aviv based.
Yeah. Wow, so many companies coming out of there. That's crazy.
I know. A lot of people, every time you say it, everyone's always surprised. I'm like, yeah, all the best is everyone who's, I would say, in the crowdfunding scene, it feels like is coming out of Tel Aviv these days.
Yeah, that's insane. And I guess I just only have like a couple more questions here for you, but one of them was just the response that you get. Like, if you are doing a traditional product launch on your website, you have their emails, you do all the communication, and it kind of works that way. When it comes to Indiegogo and people finally get the product like in their hands and they get it shipped to them, what is that response like? Do you instantly start to get feedback? Do you instantly start to get people posting on social media? Like, what is that post-campaign kind of process like?
So, we are still in marketing, and I think that it's easy to forget that the people that we sell to might not be as marketing savvy. So all the companies that I've worked for, there's always been a nice card in the box to encourage them and remind them that they are welcome to share on social media, and we'd be happy if they do. So something to always think about to just put in there and remind people that that's an option. And yeah, absolutely. Once people start receiving the devices, you can see the questions coming in and you can see social media, but it's good. A lot of times you get feedback on the product, and it's good to, to see this feedback to be able to make the product even better and to improve it, because it's the first time you're putting it out there. And these are the people that are getting the product for the first time. So take all of their feedback, talk to them, learn from them, understand how you can improve with them. So it's exciting. It's really exciting when people start to get it. That's for sure.
Totally. So now that you've done this Indiegogo, do you think you guys are going to do more? Is this going to be sort of like a new mechanism for you to get products out there, or is this just kind of like a one hit and now you guys are focusing more on your own internal production?
Well, right now, we actually are planning some exciting things this summer. So definitely stay tuned, but we're focusing on the Lumen device and giving the best experience that we possibly can, and we're working on the app. If there will be another product in the future, I can't say right now, but Indiegogo is always an option for another product in the future for sure. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
How does the app work?
So the app is connected to the device. You have to have the device in order to use the app, but it's available on iOS and Android, and all of your information and data is received and can be accessed through the app.
Okay, so you don't have to like keep track of it, I guess, over time. I have my old school. I just got a Bowflex because you're at home and kind of like quarantined, and I have to write down my workouts like every day. That's so old school. Like, it'd be great to have an app or something like that.
Well, this is the fun thing. I always tell people, with Lumen, you can't cheat on your diet anymore. It's not like some of the other ones where you write it down and maybe you forgot to write down that you had the ice cream, or maybe you forgot to write down that you had that extra beer. With Lumen, you breathe in the morning and it shows you if you cheated or not. You don't have to write anything down. We know, which is cool.
Yeah, that's scarily effective.
That's for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing some really great advice and tips here. Where can people go to learn a little bit more about Lumen and some of the stuff you have coming out there?
Absolutely. They can go to lumen.me. So it's lumen.me, M-E. And if they have any questions, they can reach out to us directly as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sydney, for coming on the show. My final question for you is, if you were to speak directly to someone who just now is preparing for their launch and they're kind of scared, kind of worried, kind of anxious, could you share a final word of encouragement or a final tip or a final bit of advice you'd like to impart?
Absolutely. I would say, not be scared, embrace it, be excited, use it to fuel your campaign, and see how you can take that energy and channel it into the campaign. And just do your research, do your homework, write everything down and double check your lists, and talk to as many people as you can, and get as much feedback on the product and the campaign before you go live. That's for sure.
Great. Thank you for coming on the show and look forward to seeing your next campaign.
Thanks so much, Sal. Thanks for having me, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you got a lot of value out of today's episode. Take a second to dive into the archives of this podcast. No reason not to binge listen to this show when you're running. I love listening to podcasts, man. Like, it's my thing. I learned so much. I'll go down to the gym and I'll work on the Bowflex. I'll go running, and I just learn a ton. It's almost like I'm working out my muscles and also working out my mind, which I love, using efficient use of my time there. But also when I'm in the car or I'm on the subway, if I'm even just walking down the street, I'll sometimes listen to podcasts. And I find it to just be a remarkable modern way to get free information and to download all of that into your head. And there's so many podcasts that I do listen to that just have just tons of valuable tools and resources that are shared on them, that the ability to talk to the person who is hosting the show can be really appealing. And I always wanted to offer that with my show. So what I have for you today, if you're interested in scheduling a one-on-one consultation with me and kind of get to the root of, is your project going to be successful or not? Is it a good fit for crowdfunding or not? What kind of marketing strategy should you be using to really sink our teeth into what you've been doing thus far, and to get a really clear picture of how to be successful with this campaign, and to guide you how to, not only just hit your goal and have a little bit of a success story, but what's required to really level this thing up, right? And who do you need to know in the industry? Who should you be working with from a agency perspective? Should you be bringing on a freelancer? How should you be spending the budget you have for the campaign, making sure that you're not spending it frivolously or on stupid stuff that just doesn't matter when it comes to marketing? That's kind of what I want to help you with this with this one-on-one coaching call. It is a premium call, and it's an hour-long intensive call where we go in depth into your project, as well as to give you feedback on what you've been doing thus far related to any of your assets, like the video, or if you already have the campaign together, or if you're just in the prototyping stage and you're wondering how to get a prototype made. We talk about all of that on this coaching call. You can schedule one at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Hope you enjoy this episode and you took a lot away from it. In terms of the episodes that we have coming up, I am really excited for some of the guests that you're going to have a chance to listen to this year. I think it's going to really propel you forward, and I can't wait to join you on the next podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.